Welcome everybody. Good that we have, quite a lot of participants already here. I'm the kind of coordinating program manager of the PED program that has been kicked off in 2018. And I will just give you a short overview. I guess most of you will have seen the presentation slides and have read the call text with all informations already, but still we want to give you that overview. So I will start with a short overview of the program, and then Johannes will go much more into detail of the pilot call that has been launched and why we are here. You see the table of contents, a PED program overview, then a short explanation of the PED, of what we call the PED reference framework, the booklet that has been issued, and then onwards to the specifics of the call. Next slide, please. Yes. The PED program is a transnational intergovernmental research and innovation program and a joint initiative between Set Plan Action 3.2 and the JPI Urban Europe. Hans Günther already mentioned in his welcome statement that this is that the program really aims at producing results. There is a clear mission of having 100 positive energy districts in Europe by 2025 that are synergistically connected to the energy system in Europe. We see, especially engaging JPI Urban Europe in that program, the urban perspective is very important for us. So it's not just a technological solution of how to do a surplus of energy, but how to embed this approach into urban strategies and thus creating livable, sustainable, inclusive urban neighborhoods of the 21st century. So PEDs as part of holistic urban strategies, PEDs contributing to climate action and energy transition, allowing different approaches and aligning them according to diverse regional preconditions. And as Hans Günther already mentioned, really focusing on the cities as the main problem owners that have to really start the process of getting these projects done. Next slide, please. One of our first and still ongoing and most important exercises we're trying to do is creating a common narrative on what we are actually talking about when we talk about positive energy districts and neighborhoods. We are kind of refraining from calling it a definition, because in the technical sense it's not a definition, but it's a reference framework that we have developed that is not focusing on the calculation of an energy balance, but on the optimization of the main energy functions in the energy systems, namely energy efficiency function, the energy production function, and the energy flexibility function, with the target of optimizing these three functions towards climate neutrality and energy surplus, also taking into account the guiding principles, as I mentioned already in the beginning: quality of life, inclusiveness, special focus on affordability and the prevention of energy poverty, sustainability in all its dimensions: social, economic, ecological sustainability, resilience and security of energy supply. And with the identified enablers, the policy side, with a strong political vision in the background, and the appropriate governance framework and active involvement of problem owners, stakeholders, citizens, aiming at an integration of energy and urban planning, and of course, including ICT and data management as an important tool of developing such urban structures. Next slide, please. So we came up to a preliminary definition that is quite generic. Positive energy districts are energy efficient and energy flexible urban areas. I'm not going to read it to you. You can read it yourself. But just to make, this is more to create a common understanding of what we're talking about. And next slide, please. And the idea is through an operationalization of this definition, of this whole framework, to get deeper into specific details, to include all the different approaches, the different conditions in different countries, legal conditions, climatic conditions, energy sources, you name it, to operationalize this broad definition into more specific definitions that really fit to the local conditions. What we're also doing as one of our main ambitions is a mapping of ongoing projects. We have issued a so-called booklet, Europe Towards Positive Energy Districts. You see the link here, you can download it. It's an updated second version with now more than 60 projects, of which 29 have a clear self-proclaimed ambition of developing positive energy districts. I suppose you have seen this. Some key findings, what we learned from the projects. Again, stakeholder and citizen involvement are both seen as success factors and challenges for implementing such projects. There is a requirement for governance structures supporting integrated approaches and the integration of positive energy districts into overall urban development strategies. The whole topic of energy flexibility and the consideration of the regional context is an important topic. To make it short, there is also the strategy of kind of creating energy autonomous neighborhoods, which can in some cases be a solution, but the general aim of the program is embedding positive energy districts in a regional contexts and including the regional energy system in the considerations of creating a positive energy district. One of the main challenges, and I guess you will know that, is the development of existing neighborhoods into positive energy districts. And on a meta level, tailored funding and applied business models are required to be able to make cities able to create these positive energy districts. There will be regular updates of this booklet, and we are planning to develop that, to transform that into a PED inventory with a proper comparison scheme and the development of guides and tools, and that will be, yeah, it's an ongoing task we are doing, and of course also the projects we are hopefully getting out of our calls will then be included into this booklet or inventory. Next slide, please. I think I'm already quite, yeah, Hannes, I'll probably hand over to you. Hannes, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, then I can continue with that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I hope so. Thanks a lot. So I will soon also turn off my video again. I just wanted to show you my face because I'm working with two computers and it's a bit difficult to always have then the screen in focus where the camera is. So I will again turn it off, but I just wanted, yeah, also that you get to know me. about our joint calls and the planned actions. Actually, this is the scheme we have developed for this program for the moment. You see here our first call for 2020 that we started in April, which only covers 2.7 million euros. But this is just a starting point. And what we wanted to show here is that there are already ongoing actions on national level. That is what we show here in this very first row of this coordination of national PED programs. So we know that in several countries already programs are ongoing, and later on, for example, the Swedish program will be presented. It also has, perhaps it's not really always focused on the PEDs, but it also covers this topic. And so also in other countries, actions are already ongoing, and this is what we want to build upon. And with the PED program actually, and what we are starting now with the pilot call, with this first call, is what we call the alignment of the national programs and projects. So with this first pilot call, we really want to bring together the knowledge that is already there in the different countries, combine that, but of course always being based in a way in an R&I project generally. So for this very first call, and I will describe that later in more detail, the focus is really here on an alignment also of knowledge and more also, again, the creation of new knowledge, you could say. In the future, we want to shift it a little bit towards the practical implementation, and that is what we called in the whole scheme for this program, the so-called PED labs. And you see here that in the ongoing calls that we are planning, we will focus more also really then on these realizations within those labs, and the future calls shall concentrate more also on that. And what is planned here is that an ARANET co-fund is just prepared at the moment and will be submitted to the European Commission in autumn. And of course, under the precondition that really we will get that funding for that ARANET, 2 future calls are planned. And also what will really be the difference that also more countries will join those future calls. That means, and I think I will also describe that later, but as you can see here, our budget here is quite small. And that is also related to the fact that only 4 countries joined this pilot call, because there is also no EC money on the table for this pilot call, but in the future, this will change with the ARANET. Now, what are really the aims of our pilot call here? As we have said before, we think that positive energy districts and neighborhoods can really help to achieve also the climate targets and the energy targets of the different countries. And that was the reason why we thought, okay, this first call really should concentrate on an exchange of experience between the different countries and between the already existing initiatives and also ambitions. In any case, we want to create a transdisciplinary community and a cross-sectoral community. That means really people should learn from each other. They should consolidate knowledge that is already there, should synthesize that and align that, and really with the aim of further develop these topic and really also the positive energy districts and neighborhoods. So based on this, we have perhaps here an important information now, which countries are participating. At the moment, only those 4 countries. So it's Austria. Then we have from Belgium, the Brussels capital region represented by the agency Innoviris. And then we have the Czech Republic and Sweden. And you have on the JPI Urban Europe website, you have a complete list of all national contacts. And also then in the call text, also the national eligibility criteria are stated. And this is really relevant because as this is a transnational call, and this is not a real European call in the sense of a really commission call. That means each partner from a specific country or region has really to also fulfill all the criteria that are stated for the individual country or region. And this is important for you also to keep always in mind. And the combination of all these criteria then makes, you could say, the requirements for the composition of your whole consortium. So what are our 3 topics? And I will just, I think, talk quite briefly about that, because you can find much more details in the call text. So the first topic is about holistic approaches for the PEDS and PEN implementation, as the countries involved thought that really holistic approaches are crucial for these developments. And that means with those approaches, we would like to focus on the development of strategies for PEDS and PENs, but also on the planning, on the monitoring, if it's already a realized district or neighborhood, and on the evaluation. So that means that this whole topic is looking at, you could call that systemic strategies that are aiming at sustainable, livable, and inclusive neighborhoods. And in the call text, you will find also more details, what subtopics could be covered within this heading here, or this naming of the topic. So, and for example, just to name some of them, and you will find more details then in the call text. It could be, for example, about integration of PED projects into general urban strategies. It could be about integration of urban and energy planning in the development of PEDS and PENs, or, for example, sector integration. And you will find many more other subtopics also named directly in the call text. That brings me to topic 2, about really the relation between PEDS and PENs and different urban contexts, and also different legal frameworks. Because the involved countries saw that those are also crucial conditions for the further developments of the PEDS and PENs. For example, what are we meaning here with the different urban contexts? We are aiming at, for example, different geographical conditions that you will find in the involved countries. For example, different climatic conditions. If you think, for example, of on the one hand Middle Europe, and then, for example, the Nordic countries like Sweden that is involved here. But of course, the location of the project, of course, there will be a big difference, and we are not only talking always of new developments, also retrofitting, for example, could be an issue here. Then there are, of course, several types of buildings that could be taken into consideration, and then also very important, also the different legislative aspects in the different countries. And the last topic about more governance issues, and we called it here engagement, so also stakeholder involvement concepts. We found that this is also in our preliminary analysis that we did and that the program did. We found that this is a very relevant, of course, problem here, how to involve the stakeholders adequately. How can we also really then achieve those cross-sectoral approaches? And issues that are covered here are, for example, administrative procedures, planning procedures, strategies of involving the public, for example, but also, for example, how can you really find investment incentives or business models for PEDS and PENs? And as I've said before, always further details can always be found in the core text. That brings me to the main guiding questions for your projects, and those can be applied really to all topics. We think it's important that you could think about already existing initiatives, and on the one hand there are successes, but also really the problems they have faced, so also the main barriers and the critical points. But of course, we are also interested to know more about what really are projects or elements of projects that are also useful for replication. Then we want, and I've also said that before, we don't want to address only new urban developments. We also want to address existing neighborhoods. So really then this topic also of retrofitting may be addressed in your project. And for example, as we are talking about also energy savings, also, for example, aspects of CO2 emissions are relevant. And also what multiple benefits can really those PED and PAN implementations show for the urban ecosystem. And that means that those questions, you should think about those if you really develop your project. It does not mean, of course, that always all of those questions have to be answered within your project. Then just a quick overview about our timeline. As I've said before, we opened the call already in April. Then in the meantime, we have set up this matchmaking platform that was also now used for really promoting this matchmaking event today. And the deadline for the proposals for submitting the proposals will be the 24th of September at noon. Then after that, the agencies will do an eligibility check, and we plan to have our expert panel meeting to assess the proposals in November, and then also still really come to a funding decision and funding recommendation in November and December, so that your projects can already start as early as possible. That means, especially for Sweden, this is important, the projects really start already in December. But normally we also know that there will be slight differences perhaps between the countries. So also we have a little bit of a range here for the start of your projects. Then as also I think I will talk about it also later. Project runtime should be at maximum 18 months. So that means there will be only 2 meetings in between. So we plan a kickoff meeting of all projects, and then there will be a final project event in 2022. And it's also the plan that those events are then also combined with events of the future calls, so means of the future ARENET calls. And we will try also to bring together people from different calls and from different projects, if this is then possible, hopefully in the future. This shows, the next slide shows a little bit the types of projects we are aiming at. So of course, your project should show a transnational benefit. So it should be, of course, be more than really what can be done on the national level. Then, as I've said before, and this was always a crucial point for JPI Urban Europe projects, and of course also here, is the issue of interdisciplinarity. So we want you really to find a consortium that has a constitution out of different involved disciplines. But we also want that you are aiming at a transdisciplinary consortium, means that also really practitioners are involved, relevant stakeholders are involved, could be, for example, also NGOs or citizen groups, community groups. And of course, this always also a little bit depends on your national funding regulations, what is possible and what is not possible. But as a general aim, we really would like the projects to show that as well. And perhaps I will also talk about that a little bit later more. And of course, also project should aim really to have broader impacts of their proposed activity. So also really outputs and outcomes of the projects are relevant. And I found here already a question in the chat about the running time. It is right that the maximum running time is here 18 months, actually. So it is 1.5 years. That was our maximum. Then, sorry, I have no, it is not right. It is 2 years, sorry. It is not 18 months, it's 24 months. This was then wrong before. As I've said before, only transnational projects will be funded. Then, as in the end, we had only 4 countries involved. The decision has been taken that the minimum requirement is that you have to involve applicants from 2 different countries. But these, of course, must be eligible applicants. And this is also, again, here a minimum requirement. So, of course, it's completely fine if you find partners from other countries, but the minimum requirement would be 2 from 2 funded applicants, or 2 fundable applicants, actually. And of course, then also those two entities must be independent from each other. Of course, also the project coordinator must be eligible. And sorry for the mistake before. Of course, the duration of projects is here 24 months, 2 years. I think this was just a little bit because of a mistake, because there is also a running other call with 18 months maximum duration of the JPI Urban Europe, but this year has 24 years in total. And of course, the proposals have to be written in English and have to be completed fully. And also the template form has to be respected. For the transnational submission, we use the FFG electronic submission system eCall, and I will explain that a little bit later, at least some basic features of that system. And the whole proposal has to be submitted, of course, before the corresponding deadline. And please also be aware that some countries also require an own application then on the national level, but the call text, the annex of the call text shows you that where this is necessary or not. Types of research, we're talking here about a more applied topic, and it means our range of TRL types, so technology readiness levels, is between 3 and 7. And we know, of course, that for this pilot call here, perhaps the higher TRLs will not be always reached. Of course, this is also clear to us, but generally I have to say this was the scheme then also for the future program. So that means we know that for this moment, perhaps it will be difficult really to integrate aspects of prototyping and really of testing also within this this shorter time frame here. But if there is, if you want to do that, generally it's possible as well within this call, also within this first call. Then the next slide shows us about the groups of applicants we are addressing. Of course, we are both addressing companies, but also research organizations on the one hand, and of course also all sizes of companies and coming from the different relevant fields. And I will not all name them. Then, of course, it would be fine if also the cities and municipalities can be integrated. But as I've said before, you always have to check also the national regulations if this is possible or not. But generally, all countries said at least there is some possibility really also to fund cities and municipalities. And of course, also other types, as I've said before, may be integrated like NGOs, citizens representative organizations, or consumer organizations, if possible. But as I've said before, always important, really look into the call text in the Annex A, where you can find the different funders rules there. About stakeholder involvement, and we will talk about that later. We really want all projects to clearly engage stakeholders and those really demonstrate that this project idea is based on a kind of a need, you could say a user need of a city. And we want you also to describe that in your proposal. So you will find also a section there where you have to describe that. And we are asking you to really actively involve your stakeholders and cities. But of course, we know, as I've said before, that the extent of the involvement may vary. So this is also some important point for your application then, also really to show us, is it possible really to integrate the stakeholder, for example, as a partner? Or could it be also that it is a kind of a cooperation partner? But then we would like to know, okay, what is then really his or her role in your project? So does this mean that, for example, the city is part of a kind of a sounding board you're involving, or there is some other self-financed activity that this partner is performing, but which is really then contributing to your project nevertheless? Then some words about our submission system, which is the FFG submission system eCall that has been used already in previous JPI calls mostly. If you have not used it before, then you have first to register within the ecosystem. If you have already used it, you just can log in and then just select the call, which is then more or less shown on the next slide. So you see here that you have to create a new project. And if you create, actually this slide is showing 2 different steps. So at first you say, I want to create a new project, and then you select here this positive energy district joint call. And what is important here, that there is also a second entry here for our Austrian national participants. Please do not use this one if you're really leading a transnational consortium. So please just select here this joint call entry here. And also, I think this is an important point here. This is only necessary if you're coordinating an application. Then you have to perform those steps, so really create a project and start with the whole application. If you're just a partner, then it looks a little bit different. So these steps have only to be taken if you're a coordinator. And you also have, and this is also why we show it here, you have also always to complete your master data. So the ecosystem has different, you see here, different tabs on top. And there is also an own tab that is called organization. And here you have then later on, you can here edit your organizational data and your master data, so-called master data. So if you're a coordinator, then this is how this screen then looks like. It looks a little bit different. No, sorry, this is the organization tab. Sorry, this is more or less for everybody the same here. So you have to enter the type of your organization, and then you have, of course, to state the name of your company. And then there are several other questions. And this is a little bit also related to which form of organization you come from. So for university, for example, you have also to give the details on the scientific groups here and the scientific fields. If it is a company, then it looks a little bit different. And we also showed here what is not needed. So you don't have those 4 boxes that are crossed here. You don't have to fill in that. This would be more related if you have, for example, really you're using eCall applications as well, then you have several other tabs. But for our transnational call here, you don't need to complete all these other tabs here. But you have to complete, if you're a company, then you have also to give us your annual data. This is one of the minimum requirements that the ecosystem has. And what is important, if you have finalized this organization tab and your master data, then please click for the first time here on finalize, because then this part is finalized. And that brings me now, and this is now the screen with really the content of your project. This is the screen that that you see when you start really then your project registration. And you see here on the left side that there is a tab project data. Then you have to describe the consortium, and you have also to give an overview of your costs and funding. But all of those entries have only to be done by the coordinator, actually. And what the coordinator has then to do is that you have to, of course, to give several basic data of your project. So, for example, which type is it actually? Which of the topics does it refer to? Then the short title, full title, and so on. And then very important, and I will not go into all the details, but very important is here the upload section, where you actually have to upload your proposal, and also then the Excel overview sheet about your finances of your project. And then, but only in the end, if really everything is finalized, please also click on finalize to finalize your application. But what has to be done before you can finalize it, you have to invite your project partners. And that brings me to the point, what is necessary if you're just a partner. If you're just a partner, you don't have to complete all these other fields. This is just really for the coordinator. If you are a partner, then your coordinator will invite you. So via here, creating a new partner, he will invite you to the project. And this then looks like the next screen. So here you can enter the name of the company or organization you're inviting. You have to state also the country where it is based, and you have to give the email of the recipient. That means who should really get your invitation. and you have to state which role does the partner play. Is it a research organization? Is it a company partner or another type of partner? And then via this create partner button, that means that your partner then gets an invitation to join this proposal. And then what is also important, then the partner itself has also to complete then his or her organizational data, and then also has to name a contact person as well for this project. But the main content of the whole project is only completed by the coordinator. Of course, if there are questions on that, we will answer them later, and that brings me more or less already to the end. You have already joined our matchmaking platform, and we hope that you have seen that several groups or people have already also here presented project ideas. So please really use this platform also in the future, and it will be kept open, of course, also after this event until the end of the call. So this will be one central platform where you can find further project partners. But we have also, in parallel, you could say, because we did that always also in our calls, we have also a LinkedIn group established that you can find under this link here, and also via the LinkedIn group. Generally, this is a possibility to organize networking and matchmaking. But I would say that the B2Match platform offers, of course, a more professional way of matchmaking, as you can also enter all your details about your organization and your interests. So for questions, you could either ask me or also my colleague, sorry, from Sweden, Patrick Rieden. You will also get to know him later from the Viable Cities program. So we are the main contacts for the transnational, on the transnational level. And then you will find also in the call text always your national contacts who are also available for your questions. And where can you find all the relevant material? We have provided all of that on the call website. So you will find here more information about the online submission system, including also a link to the tutorial, then the call text, then also this presentation, the proposal forms, and also a list of all national contact points. And that was already my last slide, and we are now open for your questions for about quarter of an hour. I think, Clara, either via the chat or can they also raise their question
yes,
in words? Yes,
exactly. We have one question already in the chat, and you can keep posting them either in the Q&A function at the bottom panel of your screen. You can also type them in the chat or raise your hand. We have one question that is, how about dissemination? Can we team up with a partner who supports us with disseminating project results?
Right. So I'm still online and not muted. Okay. Yeah, of course you can team up with a partner. Of course, this is also a relevant point that we want also really to see that, as I've said before, that really outcomes and outputs of your projects seen or are causing a broader impact. So of course you can also team up with a specific partner that is focused on that. Generally, this is possible. Of course, you have as always really to try to fulfill all the national requirements. Yeah, and that means the different countries are funding a little bit different organizations. Mainly, I would say there's a little bit of difference between Czech Republic and the other countries. As in the Czech Republic, you need a partner from an already ongoing project, and you will find more details, which are these partners, via a link that is also given in the call text. But generally, I think for the other countries, this is always true, that you can also find a specific dissemination partner. So, other questions?
Get one in the Q&A now. Can you summarize the main reporting requirements?
Right. So what are our main reporting requirements? So this, I think that's also a good question. There will be also, we will also ask you for a transnational reporting once a year. So if it is then a fully 2 years project, then you will have to do that for the first and for the second year. And this will be via a specific form with several questions about your general project progress. But it shows really also to the agencies what is going on in all the countries, because this is really then the report we rely on for the whole transnational project. And in addition, there will be national reporting requirements, but those differ from country to country, and that's the reason also why we have also this transnational reporting, and you will have to submit this report via, so JPI Urban Europe has established an own reporting system for that, and you will also have to complete some further questions on your stakeholder involvements, for example, and so on. But this has to be fulfilled generally by the consortium as well. And then there are, and this is also stated in the call text, what are the national requirements. You will find also information in the call text about that in the annex. And you should, of course, also consider that when preparing your project. Also consider, yeah, those expenses for those reportings, for sure. Right. So it's quite quiet. Perhaps we have already answered so many questions. We have now a little bit more time, but
yes, and you can always keep sending your questions, and we can perhaps take them at the end if they show up. Right.
So the question is now if we should really directly continue with our session on the stakeholder involvement, or if we should wait a little bit until, because actually it should only start at past. Or is it, or we are, or no, sorry, we are already too late. No, then, sorry, I was wrong. No, then we can just start with our stakeholder involvement session, I think.
Yes.
And I would hand over to you again, Clara.
Yes, thank you. So we continue with the workshop on stakeholder involvement and best practice projects. And we'll start to listen to Angela Muth, who's the coordinator for the JPI Urban Europe funded project Optimas and part of the Making Cities work call. And so Angela, please go ahead.
Thank you. I hope you can already see my screen. Yeah, so thank you. As already mentioned, we at TBW are working on the transnational project Optimas, where we are looking at optimized mobility as a service, and especially on for the urban periphery. So, and today I want to tell you something about our stakeholder involvement. So what is actually Optimas based on? It's based on the challenges on MaaS in urban non-core areas, where there is a higher degree of motorization and parking slots and less availability of public transportation. So this is the challenge we're addressing here within the project, and we're doing this by an integrated approach. We're joining different views within the project, so the urban planning, the mobility services, where we also have a look at business models, the operations and impact simulations, but also the IT development, including front-end and back-end developments, click dummies, and prototypes. But all in all, with the citizen always in mind, or even within our labs. Where we are right now is the technology and concept testing. So we already have participated a lot. And within different lab modules, we're now testing those different modules we designed. From the beginning on, we implemented an international expert panel as an advisory board. It consists of representatives from different countries and cities, and is meeting twice a year. The meetings are held in a workshop character, and within our proposal, we already anchored the international expert panel, where we included letters of commitment of different experts. Our last international expert panel was meant to be held in May, but of course the Corona crisis did not like us as well. So now we're actually working on an expert questionnaire. This is under development, so if you want to join the questionnaire or if you want to get the results, then you of course are also very welcome to contact me, and we will send you, we will put you also on our expert list. How the expert panel could grow throughout the project work is the lab operations. Within the lab operations, we have 4 modules: the co-creation design lab with the citizen in focus, but also the usability and acceptance lab, also with the citizen in focus, and the integrated mobility lab, where we also are testing new integrated mobility pricing schemes, for example. But how we could grow our expert panel was the policy lab, which is actually focusing on the city administration, mobility service providers, MaaS operators, as well as mobility experts and further, for example, architects and so on and so forth. So what is tested there was the necessary policy steps for including MaaS in the non-core areas. Always within the city, that's why it's called urban non-core areas, and try an integrative approach to reach the optimized MaaS 2030 vision. So what we did is we identified necessary gaps that should be closed, and we co-created a picture of the steps necessary, and we even could prioritize it. And what we're doing further here is to test the new tools, for example, the optimized simulation, which you can see here. I hope you can see the mouse as well. So the impacts we are simulating, and so also the policy lab methods grew, and the next policy lab follow-ups will use the design for wiser action, where we also include new questions that arise and test the concept within 2 different development areas. Of course, in the urban non-core areas, one is a greenfield development and one is a rezoning. And how we're including those experts into the international expert panel meeting is actually something that we're doing all those meetings in 2 days in a row. So we prepared the board meetings, our general assembly meetings eventually, and also the international expert panel meetings, but also the policy lab meeting to be in 2 days in a row. So the policy lab members could join the international expert panel as well. Yeah, here is some impressions. So for example, here are the measures on the timeline we developed within the policy lab with one of the policy labs. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much in time, so you hope you have some time for questioning.
No questions yet in the chat.
Okay.
But please, if you have any, raise your hand, use the chat or the Q&A function. It was such a thorough presentation, so perhaps there are no outstanding questions.
Yeah, so maybe what I can add here is if you want to join the expert questionnaire or get the results, of course, please contact me. And also if you have, for example, a PED project you want to hand in and you would like to also use our findings and methods, then of course we are also welcome. And please get into contact with us.
So thanks a lot. Perhaps thanks a lot, Angela. And I think we can continue now if there are no further questions on this specific project or these specific kinds of stakeholder involvements. I think we would like to continue with our colleague from Sweden. So Patrick, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Will try to share my screen. Maybe you can stop sharing, Angela, so I can share my screen instead. So I hope you can see my screen now. If not, please tell me. You can just interrupt with questions if you like during this presentation, and you can also write some questions in the chat. My name is Patrick Rydén. I'm from Sweden. I'm together with Johannes, the key contact person for this call. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Viable Cities program that we have in Sweden. And I'm also going to give you two examples of projects in our portfolio that we're already funding in Sweden and how they work with the stakeholder involvement in those two projects. So just two examples. First of all, some words about the Viable Cities program. We are one out of 17 what we call strategic innovation programs in Sweden, and we are funded by three different public bodies. It's Vinnova, it's the Swedish Energy Agency, and it's Formas. And we have a program period for Viable Cities of 12 years. And we have a total budget of about 100 million euros. Half of that is from the Swedish Energy Agency, and the other half is from the project involvement or the partners that are involved in different projects that we are creating. So we have today, we started 2.5 years ago, and we have today about 40 research and innovation projects, and we have them together are approximately 170 different partners in those projects. We also have members. We actually have, today we have 74 members, but we had 60 a couple of months ago. So this is an old slide. And as I mentioned before, we had a budget of approximately 100 million euros. And this is, let's say, some of our projects that we have in our portfolio. It's everything from mobility solutions, a little bit similar as you heard before when it comes to mobility as a service solution. We have projects when it comes to sensors. We have projects when it comes to different IT systems connected to the cities, and we also have one big initiatives on sharing economy called Sharing Cities Sweden. Approximately a project on approximately 10 million euros funded by Vinnova. That's the one you see in the right-hand corner. So those of you that have been involved in Viable Cities projects know that when it comes to stakeholders, we have always had the ambition that it should be a combination of different independent organizations. We have always said that a consortium should always consist of at least 3 independent organizations from at least 2 of the following stakeholder groups: university, companies, public sectors, and civil society. We from Viable Cities, we would like to see that, for instance, we don't want projects with only university partners, or we don't want projects only with companies or only with different municipalities. So this is something that we always said has, let's say, implemented in our calls from the Swedish side. So just to give you an example of that, this is one project from our portfolio that we already fund today. It's a project called Ectogrid, and it's let's say it's a technical concept on how to connect the different buildings or buildings into the same system, and providing the possibility to combine heat and cooling in this let's say joint system. And in this Ectogrid system, it's E.ON that is the lead partner, and they are let's say partnering up with 3 other partners. It's the real estate owner, if you like, called Medical Village. It's a science park in the city of Lund in Sweden, and then it's the municipality, connecting them to let's say the citizens, and they also have some expertise from the universities. So what we see here is a situation where we have both public bodies, we have a university, we have a real estate owner, and we have an energy company. And this is a pretty straight up concept, I think, when it comes to a project. And just in this project, they were trying to make data from this Ectogrid system available for the public, and also making it possible to make future let's say the data sharing models for future Ectogrid systems. So this is implemented today. We have this installed there's a test installation in the city of Lund, and these 4 partners have been all involved in the process with different, of course, different tasks. So this is, for me, this is, let's say, a quite normal project. So now I'm going to turn my eye on the second project that is a little bit more, let me see, a little bit more unusual, I would say. And that is a call we made a couple of years ago. I believe it's 2 years now, or at least 1.5, called Climate Neutral Cities by the year 2030. And what we did then was to focus on making a call, focusing on the cities and the municipalities, and telling them that we wanted them to accelerate the climate transition in those cities, and see if they can speed up the change the change of becoming climate neutral already until 2030. So we made a call, and 9 cities where we had more cities, but 9 cities were approved. These are the 9 cities that were approved in that call, and you see them being in the Swedish geography. There's a couple of one down south, and a lot of them focusing on concentrating around the city of Stockholm, different municipalities around the city of Stockholm. And what we asked them to do in this call, we asked them to do a couple of things. One was that we wanted them to make some kind of an agile roadmap on how should they be climate neutral already by 2030. What would it take? And we didn't want them to work with that just internally. First of all, we wanted them to mobilize different departments at the municipality. We wanted them not only to involve, let's say, the environmental department. This is something that is more important than only focusing on one department. So we wanted them to mobilize different departments at the municipality. And we also wanted them to create what we call innovation teams. Innovation team consisting of external partners. It could be companies, it could be innovators, it could be people given the knowledge on citizen engagement, it could be experts on digitalizations, it could be universities, and so on. But the most important thing, of course, it should contribute to the, let's say, the challenges that they had in their municipality. So all of them connected to different stakeholders. You see a lot of names here. It's organization. It's different universities and so on. And so they created these innovation teams. And what we also did was that we created what we call a transition lab, where we actually made it possible for them to share knowledge between each other. We can also make it possible for them to inspire them in their work, and also to let's say co-create these agile roadmaps that we are focusing on this project. So this is a co-creation process. So we always say that we don't have the answer, but we can do it together. And I think we can work together between the municipalities and also between different stakeholders in this transition lab. So this is what it looks like in real life. This is where we met first time in Stockholm. It was late October last year. We had 2 days working with the municipalities, working with our innovation teams, looking at different ways of creating these roadmaps. And we had a really good start, I would say. And then, as we all know, Corona struck us, and now we had to do everything on Zoom. So this is actually from a meeting we had with all the mayors in these 9 cities. We also had them signing a climate contract. So these are this is the signing process that you've seen from a meeting that we had in May. And we were very proud that all the mayors also were involved in this project. It's not only, it's also the politicians are with us in this process. So I think that is also important. So this was a very successful meeting we had a couple of weeks ago. So this is my final slide, just giving you now 2 examples on how we have worked in viable cities. One is generating projects, let's say more normally, and then let's say more co-creation type of process when it comes to this transition lab, and working quite close with the cities that were approved in that call. So that's pretty much everything for me, and I'm open for questions if you like. Are there any questions from the chat? Clara, have you seen anything?
No, I have not seen any questions in the chat, neither in the Q&A function. Just check if there are any raised hands.
Maybe I can ask a question. How are you including those cities into the new call? How is this proceeded?
Into this new call? Well, it's
Yes.
open for everyone to, of course, to apply. And so we have informed all the cities about the call, and also all our members that we have in our member network, and that also includes more cities. So all of them have got information about the call, and I know a couple of them are thinking about applying.
Okay, so they would hand in a second project.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Right, and if I may add, I think some have already registered here, really also on the platform, or at least have sent us some questions. So I think at least some of them are really interested also to cooperate here within this transnational call. And of course, then there will be a little bit of a different setting, I guess, than perhaps on the national level. But yeah, I think that these seem to be really good examples, and that was also the reason why we wanted to. Patrick, thanks a lot for this presentation. Why we wanted you to present this, because we think that already a lot has been done actually in Sweden, and I think this could be really interesting also for other countries to look at generally in their projects. Sorry.
I should mention as well that we had an internal matchmaking or national matchmaking event 8 days ago as well. So we organized let's say a national event focusing on this call, positive energy district call, and so we had some matchmaking activities internally as well before this meeting. So I know that some of them that were participating in that meeting were gonna, well, at least they told me that they're going to join today as well. So I just wanted to add that to Angela's question.
Thank you.
Right. So
We get
I
one
think.
more question. In the
Sorry.
chat.
Yeah, in the chat.
Yes, it says, how do you see the issues regarding leadership and governance in the city transitions?
Wow, wow, this is Kai. I see. I talked to him before today. So hi Kai. A good question. I think this is really important, and I think we have been working with this climate city contract. I think this is something that could be used as a tool for let's say when it comes to leadership, to also make sure that politicians and the top level are on board in the process. And if I understand it correct, this is something as well that the European Union are looking at when it comes to these climate neutral cities by the year 2030, that are one of the missions that they're working on. So a climate city contract, and I believe that will be between the mayor in the city and the commission, I believe. So that's one tool at least to address that question, I would say.
Perhaps I can add to that as an example, the city of Vienna, what they have done when it comes to governance, they have tried, so it is not a concept that is related fully to, of course, to the PED topic, but generally to the sustainable city development, and also in the broader context of other smart city aspects. And what they have tried to establish is really a kind of monitoring activity. So they have developed, or they have thought within the organization of different indicators they would like to look at continuously, and have also tried to see, okay, how can we find also relevant material on those indicators, and is this really accessible or not? So I think in the preparation of this whole of this whole scheme, they have thought also a lot about availability of data and so on. And but in the meantime, they have really set up a kind of a monitoring process for their activities, and they use that also for to see, okay, what progress have they made with regard to several of their targets, and try to use this as a central instrument for monitoring their progress. So perhaps this is also some interesting thing you could look at. Other questions, other contributions? I think not really at the moment. I don't know, Christoph, do you want to add something based on your findings from the program point of view, or?
No, I think these are all very, very valuable contributions, and I don't think we all have the perfect solution of including the stakeholders, but it's nevertheless very evident that the involvement of stakeholders, the different relevant urban stakeholders into the processes is one of the key issues of doing successful project implementation. On the general level of the PED program, we're trying to do that from the beginning, involving the stakeholder groups, as Hans Günther also already mentioned in his introducing statement. The so-called problem owners, the city authorities themselves, the utilities, the real estate sector, already in the development of the R&I program, in order to be able to shape a tailor-made fitting program that really addresses the needs of the stakeholders that are in charge, that put money on the table, and that are there creating the solutions. And then again, this has to be translated in the process of planning and implementation of projects into a broader involvement of the different stakeholder groups that need to be considered. And I always like to mention that without having a proper support from civil society, for example, there is a high risk of failure for any urban project. And we can see that on many levels, and especially if we have the ambition of doing positive energy districts or any projects like that are quite ambitious and also very much touch the behavioral side, the way people live, lifestyles, it's a crucial task to work together with them from, if not from the very beginning, then from very early stages of project creation, to really make sure that and then kind of keep monitoring if you are on the right track and on a feasible track. So innovative stakeholder involvement projects on the different levels are one of the key topics and one of the key issues we need to address, and hopefully will be addressed when we receive projects to this call. That would be my quick.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, this could be already, I don't know if there are no further questions from our audience here. I think this could be some good final words as well. So of course we are still open for your questions. You can just write us some lines via email or call us, both me or Patrick, and also of course all the national contacts. Most of them are present here as well today in this webinar or in this online meeting here. What we cannot present to you is there was no one really showing up with a pitch for a project, but there are already several, of course not really pitches perhaps in this sense, but project ideas in the platform. And you can look at that and find them there, but there was no one really showing up for presenting a pitch today. So this part of our program will be skipped actually. Perhaps as we've said before, of course, the matchmaking will keep open over the summer. So after this day, I think we have to see how we can continue that. But this is something because we could not try it out before, because for the moment the whole matchmaking was related to this event here. But of course it will stay open and will be kept also over summer. But could be that, I don't know, perhaps tomorrow, yeah, we will have to figure out how this will look like and how we can transfer everything what is already in there until the so for the remaining time of the call to be open. But yeah, but you will still find it here. Thanks a lot, and yeah, thanks for joining. And really also we wish you interesting bilateral talks then, I think. Goodbye.